Assalamualaikum and welcome to another thought-provoking AI session. I am Muhammad Abubakar Farooqi, also known as Farooqi Microsoft Wala. Every meaningful achievement begins with a decision, but behind many decisions, there is often one core obstacle: fear, fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of uncertainty, and sometimes even fear of stepping outside our comfort zone. Today, we are going to explore how we can understand these fears, develop the courage to move forward, and take bold steps toward our goals, especially while building our presence and confidence on social media platforms. And to bring an AI perspective to this important conversation, we are pleased to have ChatGPT joining us today. ChatGPT, welcome to this session. It is a pleasure to have you with us. So let's begin the inspiring conversation with ChatGPT. So my first question is that to begin our conversation, why do you think fear becomes such a powerful barrier in our lives, especially when we know that talking action could move us closer to our goals?
Fear is powerful because it's often tied to self-protection. Our brains are wired to avoid risk or pain, even if that means avoiding growth. Fear magnifies the what-ifs, convinces us that staying still is safer than moving forward. Understanding that helps us pause and ask whether that fear is protecting us or just holding us back. Well,
Continue, please.
when we start to name the fear directly, saying, for example, I'm afraid of failure, I'm afraid of judgment, it starts to lose some of its power. Once it's named, you can examine it. Whose voice does it sound like? Is it based on facts or old stories? That process shifts fear from something vague and overwhelming to something concrete and workable, almost like turning on a light in a dark room.
Now, my next question is that many people fear failure before they even begin. How can we change our mindset and start seeing failure as a valuable part of learning and personal growth?
That's a very human fear. One way to shift it is to reframe failure as feedback, not as a verdict on your worth. Every mistake becomes a kind of data that helps you refine your next step. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. Falling isn't proof you can't ride, it's part of the actual process of learning. Once you see it that way, failure feels less like a brick wall and more like a stepping stone.
When someone wants to start creating content or building a personal brand on social media, what fears commonly hold them back from taking the first step?
Usually it's a mix of self-doubt and comparison. People think, who am I to do this? So many others are already better. That comparison spiral can freeze action. And honestly, there's also the fear of visibility, being judged by friends or strangers. But often what's needed is just one small imperfect action, posting something tiny, just to break the freeze.
How can a person overcome the fear of criticism and negative comments when sharing their ideas, knowledge, or personal experiences on social media platforms?
Start by grounding yourself in your why, your purpose. When you know what you're trying to contribute, criticism feels less personal. It becomes something external you can evaluate. Decide whose feedback counts. Mentors, trusted peers, real audience members, and let everything else be background noise. Practice self-compassion. Remind yourself, I'm allowed to learn in public. And when possible, treat constructive critique as free research. Hateful stuff says more about the sender than about you.
People often compare their journey with successful creators online. How can we overcome this comparison and develop the confidence to follow our own unique path?
Comparison steals momentum because you're measuring your beginning against someone else's middle. Try to shift the frame. Instead of why am I not there, ask what's my next small step. Notice your own progress week to week, not against others. Curate your inputs too. If certain feeds trigger comparison, mute them for a while. Make more than you scroll. And remember, your quirks and lived experiences are the very things that no one else can replicate. That's your edge.
How important is stepping outside our comfort zone? And why can uncomfortable experiences sometimes become the starting point for our greatest personal growth?
Growth rarely happens inside the comfort zone because there's no friction there. Discomfort is often the signal that you're stretching your capacity, building new skills, expanding your sense of what's possible. Each time you do something that scares you a bit, speak up, hit publish, ask for an opportunity, you teach yourself two things. One, that discomfort is temporary, and two, that you can survive it. Over time, that builds a quiet confidence grounded in evidence, not bravado. The hard moments become reference points that prove you're more capable than you imagined.
When we are afraid of making the wrong decision, how can we develop the courage to make a choice, take action, and learn from the outcome?
One helpful approach is to redefine what wrong means. Most choices are irreversible. They're experiments. If you treat a decision as a test, try it, gather info, adjust, the stakes feel more human. Courage grows when the step feels doable. So shrink the decision to the smallest test you can run, and then set a quick review point. After a week, what did I learn? That turns fear into curiosity, and curiosity into momentum. Action becomes learning, not a verdict on you.
What practical habits can people develop every day to gradually build courage, confidence, and the mindset required to take bold steps in life?
Start tiny and be consistent. Try a micro courage ritual each day, one small action that causes mild nerves. Say hello first, share a short thought online, ask a clarifying question. Pair that with brief reflection at night. What felt uncomfortable? What did I learn? Over time, those little wins compound. And protect your energy. Sleep, move, connect with supportive people. A steady body and a steady circle make brave choices easier. It's not about one grand leap. It's about small steps that stack up.
How can setting small and achievable goals help someone overcome fear and eventually build the confidence to take bigger and more meaningful risks?
Small goals lower the emotional risk, so starting feels safer. Each completed step becomes proof I can do hard things. That proof builds self-efficacy, which is the quiet sense that you can handle challenges. With each win, your tolerance for uncertainty grows. So over time, what used to feel huge feels manageable. Bigger risks become simply the next small steps. Progress compounds, and your identity gradually shifts to someone who acts despite fear.
In the fast changing world of social media, how can people remain authentic and confident instead of allow trends, opinions, or audience reactions to control their decisions?
Anchor yourself in your core values before you post and ask yourself, does this reflect what I stand for? Trends change fast, but values are steady. Use your values as a compass and let metrics be a rear view mirror, useful for learning, not steering. Create a simple filter, purpose, audience. If not, skip it without guilt. Authenticity isn't rigidity, it's alignment. And confidence really grows when you're that's sustainable momentum.
What role does self belief play when someone is facing uncertainty And how can a person strengthen their belief in their own abilities?
Self-belief is the stabilizer when outcomes are unclear. It doesn't erase doubt, but it keeps you moving. Write down 3 times you figured things out, even when you were unsure. That's evidence, not hype. Pair that with small visible wins and with voices that see your strengths. Over time, practice turns belief into a muscle flexed by consistent action. Uncertainty becomes a place you can operate.
Sometimes fear comes from worrying about what other people will think. How can we stop living for others' approval and start making decisions based on our own purpose?
That's really common. A simple shift is to clarify who one of those at circle more weight. Practice tiny acts of self-loyalty. Choose the walk you need. Say no when you mean no. Share one honest thought. Each act teaches your nervous system it's safe to be myself. Over time, the voice inside gets louder than the noise outside. That's how purpose takes the wheel.
How can social media be used positively as a platform for overcoming fear, expressing yourself, connecting with others, and building confidence through consistent action?
Use it intentionally. Treat social media as a workshop, not a stage. Start by sharing small process moments, things you're learning, not just polished results. That lowers the pressure and helps you find your voice. Choose a small cadence you can keep, once a week, perhaps, and focus on consistency over virality. Connect with a few kindred creators, comment thoughtfully, ask for feedback. That sense of community turns fear into belonging. Over time, the act of showing up regularly, telling the truth in manageable pieces, builds confidence. Not because everyone applauds, but because you kept your word to yourself. And that kind of self-trust is portable. It follows you everywhere.
When someone has spent years avoiding risk because of fear, what would you suggest is the first bold step they can take to begin changing their life?
Start with one small, deliberate risk that is important but not overwhelming. Something that nudges your edge without flipping your whole life upside down. Define it clearly. What's the smallest brave move I can make this week? Tell one trusted person for accountability. Set a realistic time limit and commit to learning, not to perfection. After you do it, reflect briefly. What was easier than feared and what you learned about yourself? That reflection turns a single act into momentum. One step, then the next. That's how a different path gets built.
As we come toward the end of our conversation, what powerful message would you give to someone who is standing at the edge of a new opportunity but is still afraid to take that first bold step?
If you're standing on the edge, remember that fear is often a sign that you care, not a signal to turn back. Courage isn't loud. It's a quiet decision to move one step forward, even while your voice shakes. You don't have to feel completely ready. You just have to care enough to try. And once you do, however small the step, you'll have proof that you're capable of more. Keep going. The path widens with each step, and you are allowed to grow.
As we conclude today's AI session, one message stands above everything we discussed. Fear may be part of the journey, but It does not have to control the directions of our lives.